Honorable Chief Justice Pakistan, Chief Justice with Lahore High Court, Honorable Judges of the Lahore High Court, Board delegates, advocates, Chief Janadur Vaskaveri. I want to first of all thank the foreign delegates with honorable convenience granted to the award. I, on behalf of judiciary, also want to thank that coming over, sharing their ideas with us. I think it's one of the most critical areas of reform in the country right now. I think it's high time that we move to ADR. While you're just sharing some statistics later on in the day, it's perhaps if we were to talk about one main reform that this country, judicial reform that this country requires, is to migrate fund to ADR and inbuild that in our history. So thank you so much for being there. I missed the earlier sessions where you deliberated rather very importantly here, and I'll probably get a link and go through those and make my notes. I'm sorry I was busy in some professional commitments. You couldn't be here earlier. Go through all the parallel discussions. And so very useful, very meaningful, very wholesome, and there's a lot there to learn from. So once again, all the foreign delegates of federal from all those countries, thank you so much for being there with us and to share all this experience with us. Thank you, CIR, for inviting myself to be here with you today. Thank you so much. I've been tasked to, well, my focus is domestic ADR at Djibouti, and I want to talk about the present state of litigation in the country and see how ADR fits in and how it could revolutionize and change things. And that's how critically and how important this conference is to me. To me, it's like a watershed that could be a tipping point. And if we pick up this momentum that arises today, just go on with it, I think with the head of the Honorable Chief Justice, Pakistan, who has interest and heart in it also, we could really turn things around for no time. And that could benefit that ordinary litigant who's not in school today. So this is all for that ordinary Pakistani who goes to court and waits and waits and waits years for his case to be decided. I think he might just have a solution. And I think it's about time to embed it seriously in our system. Even though I've been asked to talk about Pakistan's struggles, or perhaps Pakistan's struggles with ADR, arbitration, dispute resolution, I think with this momentum that I see here and the energy and the expertise that I see here and the tipping point that I see right in front of my eyes, I rephrase the topic and say, Pakistan, all get up, white ADR. Pakistan. So it's time to enhance the dispute resolution mechanism, the alternative dispute resolution. We need to think that there's a world outside courts also. This is a major mindset issue to my mind. So we've talked about the earlier project, I talked about the ADR initiative that took it to High Court. It's to change the points. People need to understand that they can resolve their disputes outside court. This is a deeply embedded mindset which takes to our role. I was very glad to meet some young people who said they are young mediators from various law colleges trying to do some awareness program. All strength and power to you. I think awareness, the first step towards a domestic ADR revolution, if we would use the term. So this is not out of the goodness of heart that you're talking about ADR. I think it's not any more a fancy sideline discussion or a side attraction anymore. I think it's a hardcore mainstream reality, and we need to understand, especially for Pakistan and the figure that I'll share. So it's about trying to seize the moment. And I say it with all seriousness, Carpe Diem has to say, seize the moment, please. You need to do this. And I urge the Chief Justice here, the Honorable Chief Justice who's listening in, this is perhaps the time to go in with all force and energy that we have in understanding and embedding ADR into our system. So it's with passion that things change, not with positions, I must say. So it's with this passion that I want to address you today, tell you what my ideas are, how I think we could make a difference. Let me start off with the constitutional claim. See, you can play around with some of the ideas, some of our fundamental rights a little, and tweak them a little if you can.
Then let's look at Article 9. So Article 9 is primary in our constitution for foreign delegates.
Article 9 talks about right to life. But jurisprudentially over the years, we have given it another meaning.
And a subset of it means right access to justice. So access to justice comes out of right to life.
Article 9 of the Constitution. Now, access to justice, we all understand, talks about the ability to be able to approach court of law. I think we need to add to it. I think we need to revisit it, reconfigure it perhaps. Access to justice by just getting to court is not enough anymore. If I get to court and have to hang in there for 20 years, is that access to justice? Aren't we not really frustrating the very concept of access to justice, which is connected, actually it arises out of right and life? Is my life not impaired if for the last 20 years I'm stuck in the court system? So I think we need to retool it. Right to access to justice would mean when I get a decision, when I'm out of the justice sector. So I think this pushes it, the concept of ADR, also at a constitutional level. And if we talk about right to access, we're talking about right to conclusion of your dispute. If the dispute still lingers, access to justice means nothing. You need to reconsider this as. You need to also consider the fact that right to access to justice, which arises out of right to life, perhaps is also saying that if I have an easier way to resolve my dispute, I am not supposed to be put to the rigors of litigation. As a fundamental right, I have a right to a fast-track dispute settlement. Does it not impair my life if I keep going through the litigation process without even exploring the option of mediation, without even exploring the option of arbitration? I think it becomes a right that I first slip the right to go through this process, and as a fundamental right arising out of Article 9, maybe at a time we could say that yes, it's a right of a citizen of Pakistan to say, I want a fast-track dispute resolution. If I were to fail in mediation, if I were to fail in arbitration, then I will end up in litigation. But throw me into litigation straight away, perhaps now might consider impairs right to life and right to access justice. The other concept which I think is also important we need to talk about is Article 10A. We talk about fair trial in the Constitution. We talk about due process. And let's not be sort of stuck on the word trial to be trial in the court of law. I think fair trial is about time that we tweak it a little. Fair trial would be any system that settles disputes. Any dispute resolution mechanism would be fair trial. So it's about time that 10A includes ADR for sure. For sure ADR is included in 10A and perhaps more. It also says that it's perhaps more fairer and perhaps it's more closer to due process if I were to take the easy way out to settle my disputes. Would it not be easy for a citizen to get out, to get back to his life and just get done with the court and justice system? So perhaps 10A and a fair trial inherently also talks about a fast-track system to be adopted first rather than going into litigation. So we need to start looking at Article 9, Article 10A, right to access justice, right to fair trial, and right to due process under the Constitution with kind of an ADR flavor, which actually, if you go down to the nitty-gritty, actually changes the way an ordinary person's life is affected. Because if he's just thrown to the courts, he might not be able to get anywhere. But it will take so many years, the cost, the time, a number of other problems that come with it. So we could start off by sort of revisiting how our constitutional rights talk about the concept of ADR. But let me tell you why I'm worried about this, why I talk about ADR with this kind of interest, because let me share with you the litigational landscape of Pakistan. You need to understand where we stand. What is the problem in the country? So according to the World Commission, a Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan, the recent statistics as of March 2022, we have 2 million cases pending in Pakistan, 2 million. And we have 4,166, rather odd number,
4,166 judges in the country dealing with 2.08 million cases. Out of this lot, the Supreme Court took in 2.5% in this backlog. The high courts are looking at about 16% backlog. But where is the real fact? 82% of this litigation is nowhere but with the district judiciary. Our frontline courts are handling 82% of our litigation in Pakistan. So, the High Court across the country has about 145 judges, which, if you were to divide the work they're doing, brings down their docket to around 3,000 cases, which would perhaps be hard to see if you compare it with any international benchmark. 3,000 cases at the docket of a judge. Now, what does that really mean? You see, if I handle cases every day and I decide cases, if I have to write a couple of judgments which will take more than a day, might take a month. The Supreme Courts in the world might take months to write that rule because Supreme Court is second down policy and they need to think a lot more. So, suppose if I have to write a couple of judgments, then those cases get delayed. As far as my disposal is concerned, or the figures will show that this case stands decided, but I'll be sitting on it for about 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 months, writing that judgment, so it stays back, and then I have new work that comes in. So this docket is very important. You need to understand it is this 2,000 or 3,000 cases in my docket, which doesn't go away. It's not easy to get rid of this docket because you write a judgment which are pending and there's new work coming in. So as this is going to stay, there is no way out of it that I can get rid of this docket. It's not possible. If you look at the district judiciary, they have a docket of about 1,800 cases per judge. And I'm talking about the district judiciary. This is 1,800 cases per judge. Every day cases are coming in. They are putting judgments that are to be written. And maybe that's also added to this number. So it's not 1,700, might be more. And it's added. So there seems to be no answer to my mind that how do we get rid of all this. Within the district judiciary, that's 1.7 million cases that they're handling. 67% are civil cases, which take longer than the criminal cases. Criminal case 32%, but 67% is civil litigation in the country, which perhaps ideal fodder for ADR. So, going down the civil judges now, which is the actual frontline court to my mind, the actual fact of the district, of the entire pyramidal structure that we have of the judiciary, the actual set of cases are with the district, with civil judges, and so civil judges slash magistrates are about 2,828 judges in the country. 2,828, and they're handling a pendency of 1.4 million cases. 752 per case per judge in his docket. And I don't know how, under what formula would those 752 cases go to disappear one day and he can up deciding, because every day you have fresh cases coming in. Rough understanding of the institution and disposal is as follows. The recent figures show that a judge might decide, a civil judge might decide about 85 cases per month, but he has an institution of 85 cases per month too. So what is happening? And zero sum at the end, you see. So he's still, struggling with those 752 cases. Yes, right, judgments, if something more comes in, and we're not talking about the quality of work and all that. So this is the system is stuck. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just stuck there, you see, and it's not moving. The categories of cases in the civil would be civil suits largely civil suits, family disputes, guardianship matters, rank matters, and divorce cases. So if you look at dependency, and this is worrying, and I tell you this is worrying. If you look at the pendency of Pakistan's backlog, in 2010 it was 1.3 million cases. But if you look at 2021, it's 2.1 million cases. So it's growing for sure, because I say it's growing. That very docket that I talk about must have grown also. So that is the state of affairs that we are at. The average time, I would imagine, is anybody's guess for that, but I try to look at the statistics. You don't really have a calculated figure on it, but average time a case would take from civil court to the Supreme Court, which exhausts the entire justice sector, the litigation space that we have in the country would range from 5 to 20 years. We're talking about a generation lost here. So it could vary, of course, but that's the kind of figure we're talking about. And there is practically no domestic arbitration, and there is no practically formal mediation outright to this. So there is no alternative as such. And talk about why not. But currently, one could make a statement that other than litigation, other than filing a suit and going to court of law, you do not have an alternative available to go elsewhere because of the problems that the alternative offers, which I'll explain in a minute. So I think while we sit down, we talk about judicial reform, we see how to sort this out. 2.08 million cases, number of judges all pointed out, and the way things are stuck, what do we do? So we look at other things, we talk about bringing information technology, going to case management, working environments, training and all that. But one very important reform out of all this would be to set up ADR center, migrate these cases onto mediation, give the option to a litigant, please you can mediate this matter in a month's time, or if not, you could arbitrate this matter within a couple of months and be out of the system. No appeals, nothing. You don't have to go visit the Supreme Court in Islamabad. You're done with the matter right here. I think this could be a fantastic alternative. Anybody will find this to be perhaps the most important reform that the country requires at this stage. And that's why I think that this conference is so critical, it's so important. And so pleased the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan has blessed this occasion, this presence, to highlight the importance of this area to the nation itself and the judiciary also. Yeah, our first spent time with the arbitrator and then spent yet a couple of years at the court. So it's like doing it twice in a way. I'd rather do it the court rather than invoking the 1940 law. So that might be some flaws with the 1940 law, but my experience did, as the Honorable Chief Justice already mentioned, we had the chance together and the teamwork. We came up with a mediation project in the District Judiciary of Pakistan, Punjab, and that was based on the same ethos and sentiment that what do we do? How do we break this glass ceiling? Is it who won? And there was no legislation at the time, right? So we had stringently thought that's very simple. The model was very simple. Let's establish a court. Let's get a civil judge trained in the art of mediation. There were local PHs available, so all the sitting there. And then the post of a CEDA would sort of help us with training some of our judges. So let's train some of the judges in the art of arbitration. And let me tell you, as a background, law schools don't offer courses in negotiation. It took us some time at Lumps to talk about having courses in negotiation. It's a very sort of adversarial mindset that the lawyers enjoy. And there are laws which say don't bring a lawyer into this school setting because picture puppy never ate. So he needs to start changing the mindset of a lawyer, and lawyer is not supposed to be adversarial all the time or confrontational. They can also negotiate and settle matters. So the background, the law schools, the overall history of the Bar Association is to quote adversarial in character, and that also was a stumbling block for us. Sort of market mediation in the midst of all this. So we started off this project. We said, let's train some of our civil judges and start telling people that, and the judge is hearing the case to give an option. Voluntary, of course, could give an option that before the next date comes up, I mean, God knows there are about 120 to 200 adjournments in a case anyway. So before the next date comes up, we give you an option. Why do you go to that room next door, that nicely colored place, go there with a nice coffee tea being offered, just go there and your dispute is settled. There is a judge who's sitting here, talk to both of you, understand your problem and resolve your dispute. So people started understanding this because they've already stuck there for a number of years. They thought, what's the harm in trying an option? So you can get back here after a month anyway. So people started moving, and this is all done under Article 233 of the Constitution.
which is, our own practice of Pycurtic rules and orders, and we just said, let's go ahead, set this up. So we set something up in 2017 in Lahore, and 2 mediators seat 110 cases at that time, out of which 60 were successfully mediated. I think that deserves a clap. I hope this didn't really pay. Okay, so then what we did was that when we saw that this first arbitration mediation center set up in Lahore, we said, I had 10 cases. He said, we set them 110 cases, 60 were decided. He thought this is making sense. The model works. So we went ahead with 36 districts and set up ADR centers, started training judges on the site. We felt there was a response. And we said, let's go for it. And we sent them international training. They went all over the place. Asia Foundation, thanks to them, they were there to help us out. And we sort of did a lot of work on their training, capacity building.